And when you know with clarity, because you feel him coming into you, because you're in the space, you're at the wedding banquet with the bridegroom, with your 5 wise virgins, unified as one, because you've got discipline over your 5 senses, you hear and feel every subtle aspect of the spiritual journey of yourself. And you feel God entering you, and you feel God's presence, and you feel the angels coming, and you feel the ideas coming, and you know when you're supposed to sit quiet, and you know when you're supposed to turn left or turn right. And you know those subtle whispers are not your ego or your carnal mind, and you know that they are coming from something external.
Great Spirit, I have had it. Bring me back to the nomadic way of weaving through the damage. Mindful, stay mindful. Great Spirit.
Hey guys. You'll probably know from my other video that I've not been well, and so I am fasting. And this coincides actually quite well with this time of the month for me. This time of the month is a very sacred time of the month for myself, because the moon is entering into Aries. Simply means the moon, as it makes its trajectory across the night sky, is passing through the constellation Aries, and it will be there for around about 2.5 days. When that happens, as I was born at that time, my body chemistry has a relationship with the synchronicity or the syncretism of that moon and its passing through that star sign. If you were born in as a Leo or a Scorpio, then yours would be at that time, but mine is Aries. And at this time, my body begins its secretion of that which I always speak of, the chrism. But more importantly, it begins the journey of the monthly Christ within us, the Christ seed, as esoteric ancients called it. That Christ seed is carried within the internal chrism, or the olive oil, the olive which must pass through the olive of the hypoglossal, the 12th cranial nerve. And this is where the term olive oil comes from. This is the anointing of olive oil. The only anointing that matters. The only anointing of olive oil that will ever matter is the passing of that sacred substance within you that comes from the colostrum, that drops down from the Ark of the Covenant through your 33 vertebrae and makes its journey. It spends some time in the sacred place, which are 5 fused vertebrae. And the 5 fused vertebrae, to me, are a very good representation of the union of 5 senses, because when you find that union of the 5, and they don't run riot doing their own thing, and they are all one, and they are together, then you have the discipline to return that secretion. You have the discipline to return yourself to the promised land in the east, to open the right hemisphere, and to commune with God in the higher levels of consciousness. What many of us are not realizing is the importance of fusing those 5 senses. And it's so important that, yet again, it's encoded in the stories of that wonderful mystic text, the Bible. Let me read you a passage from the Bible, and then I'll explain how this references a journey that I'm undertaking now, and you should be undertaking every month of your life. And if you're not, you need to start beginning to. Because those of us who are will always, always find it easier to find alignment with the present moment, and that is the place where God always intended us to be. He didn't intend for us to have worries of the past and worries of the future, and regrets of the past, I should say, and worries of the future. He intended us to be here, in this moment. And the carnal mind is the thing that generates concerns for the future and generates regrets for the past. And the carnal mind is not subject to the laws of God, as it is written in the Holy Book, the Bible. So let me read this. At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of the virgins were foolish, and 5 were wise. When the foolish ones took their lamps, they did not take extra olive oil with them, but the wise ones took flasks of olive oil with their lamps. When the bridegroom was delayed a long time, they all became drowsy and fell asleep. But at midnight there was a shout, "Look, the bridegroom is here. Come out to meet him." Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, because our lamps are going out." "No," they replied, "there won't be enough for you and for us. Go instead to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves." But while they had gone away to buy it, the bridegroom arrived, and those who were ready went inside with him to the wedding banquet. Then the door was shut. Later the other virgins came too, saying, "Lord, Lord, let us in." But he replied, "I tell you the truth, I do not know you. Therefore stay alert, because you do not know the day or the hour." Maybe I can go through that part by part and explain, but I think it's quite obvious if you watch my other videos by now what is going on here. The kingdom can be likened unto 10 virgins. 5 of the virgins were foolish and 5 were wise. 5 is your 5 senses. Those who are wise with their 5 senses and those who are unwise with their 5 senses. Those who are unwise with their 5 senses would never win in a fight against Goliath, because they would take the 5 stones and they would not manage to strike the giant here. They would not raise their energies and to activate the pineal and strike Goliath between the eyes with those 5 stones as a unified one. They wouldn't be able to do it. Those are the foolish virgins. Those among humanity who don't combine their 5 and find discipline over them. The wise are the ones who take control of their 5 senses and crucify them in Golgotha, the place of the skull where Jesus was wounded 5 times on a cross. And at that point, when the 5 senses die and you take no thought for your life, you ascend to the Father and you commune with God. That's simply what that's referring to. The 5 and the 5. 5 wise virgins is a human being who has discipline over their 5 senses. The unwise, the foolish, are the ones who do not. The foolish ones took their lamps. They did not take extra olive oil with them. Because they've lived riotously, because they have not found discipline over their 5 senses, they haven't found that union, and they've been like this, dancing around with them, letting them control them, letting the flesh have control over them. They have not raised their sacred chrism, and they have not been able to ensure that the chrism is there to be raised at the correct time of the month and pass through the olive of the hypoglossal or the 12th cranial nerve, so they have no olive oil. But the wise have plenty because they have nurtured and preserved the gift of their life force. They haven't wasted it on drugs and alcohol and overeating and overindulging in sexual pleasures, be it with multiple partners or with a computer screen, as many people do these days. Quite simply, that's what it's saying. When the bridegroom was delayed a long time, they fell asleep, ultimately. The bridegroom is Christ. Christ comes from the promised land in the east. It's always the same thing. The bridegroom is Christ, the Christ within you. And it does sometimes take time for us to reach that place within us. And because we are human, we will switch away from being alert and awake in consciousness, and we will miss moments where we can commune with God. We all do it. I do it. I'm very guilty of doing it quite frequently. And I annoy the life out of myself when I do, but I still manage to do it. Because I fall asleep, as all humans do. Not physically fall asleep, although that might be part of it at some times, but I consciously fall asleep because I get too busy and I ignore my spiritual practice and think, oh, I can go another day without that. I can go another month without a fast. I can go another week without this. And I can eat that little bit of, junk food and it doesn't work. It unbalances the chemistry of my body, and my body is a very sensitive alchemical antenna of prayer, as all of our bodies are. So we fall asleep. But the time comes where you need to find the Christ within you, and the bridegroom comes. And those who have had a union with their five senses and have not wasted the life force within them and the chrism within them stand an opportunity to become upright and to light their lamps by finding a union over those five senses and walking as one towards the Christ, towards the bridegroom. The others who say, "Let me borrow your oil," they are the foolish ones, and you send them away and you say, "For now you have been foolish, and you don't have the oil in your lamps to be able to come to Christ, because you've wasted it on riotous living. This was your choice. Go away to someone who's going to teach you how to discipline your five senses and carry the oil with you for the next time that Christ is needed in your life." They go off to buy the oil and they return, and Christ says, "You don't know the hour. I don't know you because you don't know the hour, so be disciplined." What he's basically saying in that final passage, let me make it very clear to say it word for word. When they came back, those with oil in their lamps went to the wedding banquet. They went and rejoiced with Christ, with the bridegroom. They found him by raising the chrism within them because they had the olive oil in their lamps. The five senses were wise. They were one. They were disciplined. The undisciplined returned and they said, "Lord, Lord, let us in." But he replied, "I tell you the truth, I do not know you. Therefore stay alert, because you do not know the day or the hour." You do not know the day or the hour means you don't know the day or the hour that you will need me. Stay alert means don't be riotous in this way in future. Try to always fuse your five, as your sacred plexus is the sacred place of your body, is the five fused vertebrae that give birth from the chrism when it travels down your 33 vertebrae. When you stay alert and you stay wise, then you will always have oil. Even if you slumber, when the time comes that you need Christ, the alchemy, the chemistry of your body will be so that you have the ability to be able to raise yourself up and commune with Christ in the space of no thought whatsoever. Those without oil in their lamps are not forever rejected. They are simply unable to attend at this present moment the wedding banquet with the bridegroom. And the reason they can't attend is because right now their body has been desecrated of the life force that is required to do so. In normal Christian literal speak, it is said that God turns away from sin. In esoteric speak, it is basically saying because of your sin, because of your riotous living, your body is not alchemically going to work well enough to commune with God. In the literal sense, it's saying you've done too much bad stuff. God's turned away from you. Discipline your five senses, do good things, which is the only way to discipline your five senses. Be moral, be upright, have temperance, and you can find the face of God. It's no different. It's the same thing. It's the same story. It's just one is speaking about the physical workings of the antenna of prayer that is your human body, and the other one doesn't include it in its speech. So right now in my life, as I sit here, having to dry fast because I've been ill, but I'm feeling much better for it, I am having yet again to embrace the 5 wise virgins in my life. But there will be times where 5 foolish virgins come. Last year at Christmas, when I teach this, I've got, I think, the most watched video in the world, possibly the most watched piece or looked at piece of information on this topic in the world now. I was teaching this for a long time, and last Christmas, for all I know it, I messed it up. Because the foolish virgins paraded into my life and I had no oil in my lamp because I'd been eating too much. And I was enjoying my Christmas holidays with my now wife, and I lost track of everything. And I was foolish, and the foolish virgins took hold because they were the 5 senses doing this. And the 5 wise unfortunately, were not present for me. So at the moment, and every month of my life from here on, I hope to ensure that only the 5 wise virgins are present in my life. And you should also hope that only the 5 wise virgins are present in your life, so you can pass the chrism through the hypoglossal, 12th cranial nerve, through the olive to create your olive oil, so your lamp stays lit, so you can meet the mind of Christ and you can join the wedding banquet, which is the union with God to hear his guidance and his direction for your life in perfect clarity. And this is my hope for everybody, that everyone is as close to Christ as they possibly can be. And having discipline over your 5 senses is, in my experience, the only way to get there. Words do nothing when your body is alchemically wrecked and ruined. We must find that discipline. We must raise it. We must open our hearts. I will say, it's not always set in stone that way. Because sometimes a human being might not be perfectly disciplined, but their heart still roars in such a way that God can make use of them. But they would still find their life more beautiful, and they would still hear God more easily without... Sometimes people believe that they are acting on their own will. And I'm good at discerning now when it's God's will and my own will that I'm acting upon. But many people never discern the two, which leaves a hole for God's presence in their lives. And this will allow you to fill that hole. Because for all many people act on good deeds, many are not quite sure whether they're acting because they think God is watching or because God got into them to do it. And when you know with clarity, because you feel him coming into you, because you're in the space, you're at the wedding banquet with the bridegroom, with your 5 wise virgins, unified as one, because you've got discipline over your 5 senses, you hear and feel every subtle aspect of the spiritual journey of yourself. And you feel God entering you, and you feel God's presence, and you feel the angels coming, and you feel the ideas coming, and you know when you're supposed to sit quiet, and you know when you're supposed to turn left or turn right. And you know those subtle whispers are not your ego or your carnal mind, and you know that they are coming from something external. And that is the whole point of it. To find such an embedded way of life in the presence of God that you need no longer have faith, because you quite simply know. Just as you breathe and use your arm to pick something up, so you can reach out to God in meditation and prayer and expect him to be there and to speak with you with all the booming clarity you would expect a God to be able to speak to you with. And that's the point of it. So today that is what I'm doing, and I wish to share that in the hope that everyone else can do that. And I'd also at the end of this video like to dedicate this video to a new angel that God received, because one of my rescue dogs passed away this morning, called Lucky, and I had her 3 years. And I struggle sometimes with understanding how I should feel, because I know we don't die. So when I miss them, I know I'm just being selfish. But I do miss her. So selfish I am. But I just like to dedicate this one to her, because I'm always very confident that when the children, dogs, men and women die that we care for, that they are around when I call on God and say, we need an extra angel here tonight. Watch over this child while they're sick. Watch over this lady while she dies. I'm under no illusion those who leave us are some of the angels that he calls upon to come and assist us. So dedicated to Lucky, who I'm sure is watching over us with the many others, four-legged too, who have left us in these years. God bless, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow the channel and with it help more children here in Tanzania. Also, don't forget you can support our work by sharing with children in crisis here, be it sharing for a particular need or even sharing one-on-one support for education, housing, food and medical care. It can be done for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee a week back in the West after all. Just visit www.sharetanzania.co.uk to find out more. Lastly, remember you can also support us via Patreon, www.patreon.com/featherstail, and help keep us here in Tanzania to continue our work. The links for the website and for the Patreon are in the description box of this video. Love and light, guys. See you soon.